Being with us today, and as I said, we'll have many special guests with us. And I combed the crowd and thought, who is the most special guy that we can bring on to kick off this broadcast? Do you know who I landed on? Affordability and Utilities Minister Nathan Neudorf, who slots in as the first guest on the broadcast. Minister, it's always good to see you, bud. Thank you for coming by. Hey, how about the excitement of the AGM, first of all? There are nearly 4,000 people here.
It's incredible, Bruce. It's just been great to be here, great to see a lot of familiar faces and a lot of new faces. And I can tell you, especially coming out of COVID, it's great to have optimism and excitement and hope back in the room.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had a couple AGMs where well attended, but it was tough times. So to come this year and feel the energy, feel the excitement, see the multitude of hospitality suites.
Yeah.
One of my daughters came with me for the first time, and to see the number of youth here, it's exciting.
It's really neat. Neat. It's like a family reunion, but we're meeting a lot of people in the family that we might not even have known.
Yeah.
How big is your contingent from Lethbridge East?
Yeah, Lethbridge East, I think we're between 25 and 30 people, which is, I think, a record for that part of town. There's more from across Lethbridge, and southern Alberta is here in really large numbers. It's just great to see.
Yeah, I spoke with a lot of people last night from all over the province. It's really neat how many people have come from far and wide to be part of this. We'll chat about your ministry a little bit and some of the things you're working on, but maybe before we get to that, what do you think the draw is suddenly? Like, the movement of the United Conservative Party has grown considerably.
Yeah.
I know the Premier's a part of the reason for that. But why do you think the excitement?
Well, I think it's a number of reasons. One is, coming out of COVID, people want to have hope again, and I think our party has really represented that hope with economic growth, with people coming to Alberta. So I think that's part of it. I also think it's about the future, knowing that when we stand together, united, especially in Alberta, the right side of the spectrum politically, we're going to be in power. Yeah. We're going to be in government, which means we carry a large responsibility. And I think people want to be engaged with that responsibility and make sure that their values, their priorities are being represented in government. And that's something I know as an elected member I take incredibly seriously. These are the people that put us and me into office. So we have to make sure we're listening. We have to make sure we're walking together. And a few years ago, we saw what happened when the right splits. And then we have a government that Albertans are not typically very happy with, that's not responsive to the people. And that's why I just think there's that cohesion of all of those parts and pieces coming together. This is grassroots democracy at its best when people come out and are part of it.
How about that? I'll follow up on the unity question a little bit, and recognize I'm very familiar with what happens when you divide Conservatives. I mean, I've still got the shrapnel wounds from 2015, obviously, as part of Danielle's Wildrose group, and we made some mistakes there, but the party, the family is back together.
Exactly.
And I think people recognize the need for Conservatives to stay together. It's really a broad group here. I've spoken to a lot of people. So touch on, I guess, unity and the Premier's job and role and confidence in putting the group back together.
Yeah, I think the Premier really touched the heart of the issue in unity, which is about listening and valuing the feedback that you get. Alberta has a lot of diverse views. We are fairly evenly split between our two metro centers, Calgary and Edmonton, and the rest of Alberta in terms of population. As you know, there's been a lot of years where rural has felt a little neglected and overlooked, and we realize the danger politically if we don't value them for what they do. For the farmers and ranchers who contribute to our agricultural sector, the oil and gas workers who contribute so much to jobs and economy, as well as the fiscal purse of the province and the nation, and how proud Albertans are to be Albertan. There's a pioneering spirit here, and let me tell you, you get cross-threaded with that, as you well know, you're going to pay a price for that. So having the respectful conversation is so critical, and this is why this is exciting. This is why almost 4,000 people coming out matters.
More questions to come, but if you're just tuning in, Affordability and Utilities Minister Nathan Neudorf joining us. We're going to be here live with you for the next couple of hours. We're live on YouTube, we're live on Facebook, live on Twitter. We're going to carry this live until 1 o'clock, and then we're going to stay with you live, but we're going to cut away to the Premier's speech, and she'll deliver a keynote address. This place will be packed. Right now, people are in voting lines, voting for the new executive for the party. And we'll have several guests and ministers come by, and others, just to chat about politics and life and being an Albertan. And Minister, we'll go back to you and talk about your file a little bit. Look,
sure.
Affordability, we listened to the throne speech from the Lieutenant Governor. Affordability was a key element of that throne speech, and it's in your ministry, it's in the wording for your ministry. How focused are you on it? What can Albertans expect along that front?
Myself, the Premier, my colleagues in Cabinet and caucus, we are laser focused on affordability. Maybe for the first time in Canadians' history, we're realizing something that we've taken for granted, that affordability really, really matters. We have to realize that government's actions, their spending at the federal level, the decisions we make at a municipal and provincial level matter.
Yeah.
So it touches everything we do. The focus that we're on particularly right now is electricity prices and utilities, because it's such a primary cost in everything else. Grocery stores, they use a lot of electricity to keep the refrigerators and freezers going to make sure that food is fresh. That cost is in the price of food. Listen, we need food to live. We need water. We need electricity. We need natural gas. These needs are essential, and the affordability of them is really essential for every Albertan, for every Canadian. So when a federal government starts moving and drifting into a higher tax regime for an ideological purpose, that costs something. And those who are most vulnerable feel it most acutely, because it's not just their power bill, it's their grocery bill, it's their gas bill, it's everything that they purchase goes up.
You are doing great work on your file. I know how passionate you are about it. Listen, thanks for kicking this off with us. Appreciate it. Always good to talk to you.
Bruce, it's always a pleasure. Thanks for all you do for us.
Good to see you, my friend. Affordability and Utilities Minister Nathan Neudorf, our first guest. I'm going to bring in some others to chat with here momentarily. First, a reminder, we are at the largest political gathering in Canadian history. Last I checked, there were about 3,800 people that had signed up for this annual general meeting, so nearly 4,000. It's phenomenal, really, and the room will fill up behind me shortly. This is where the Premier will address all of the members that are here. That will happen at 1 p.m. We will be live for that. We'll cut away to the Premier's speech, and again, we'll be back here after the speech to chat some more. We want to introduce you to some of the people behind the scenes, though, and some of the people that maybe you don't see as much that are so important to the party. One of them has just taken a chair beside me now, and that would be outgoing president of the United Conservative Party, and that is Cynthia Moore. Thank you for coming by.
Thank you for having me, Bruce.
May I start with a thank you for the work you've done the last couple of years. You know, most of our members, I think, are pretty familiar with what you do, but maybe touch on some of the highlights for you the last couple of years, some of the work that you've done, and that sort of thing.
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to say that the atmosphere here has been incredible. People are so appreciative. It makes me actually kind of emotional to think about it. I've had people stopping me in the hall from all over the province, you know, grateful for my leadership, which really is part of a team, you know, and it has been, it's been difficult. Not very many party presidents deal with the kind of transition that we've had, moving from one leader to another. We had to organize a leadership review that was quite contentious, and we wanted to make sure that the members felt that they had a fair say in the leadership vote. And then right on the heels of that, we had to organize a leadership election with 7 candidates. And what people don't realize is we have a very small party staff, so I take a much more hands-on role than typical presidents would, because they just need somebody who can be there and do the work. So, but it's been very gratifying for me to have some challenges that I really felt I could bring my own leadership skills.
Yeah, touch on unity, Cynthia, if you could, because it is such a challenge. Anybody that's been around the Conservative Party for any period of time knows that it's a big tent. and there are a lot of voices, and they don't always line up. I mean, people view things differently. However, we respect those voices, and as long as we stay together, we do exactly what Albertans want us to. But it has been a challenge. Maybe touch on that, and I guess how hard we've worked to keep that as a founding principle for us.
Yeah, I think it really, it has been challenging because I don't think people necessarily understand that when you're a governing party, you have to represent all Albertans. It's so important that all Albertans' voices, it's not just the voices of one group or another within a movement. And we have some strong voices that are further on the right that I think and I respect what they're saying, but we need to have a moderate government if we're going to stay in government. We want to recapture some of the seats we've lost in Calgary, and so it's important that all Albertans feel like they're represented here. And I want to say something about our leader, Danielle Smith. I think from a unity point of view, she is absolutely the right person because she understands the nuances of the different factions within our party and has done a great job of keeping them together and working with different groups. It's all about education. It's all about understanding what the long-term goal is. I mean, the long-term goal is to make sure that Alberta is as prosperous as possible. And we wouldn't be here if we didn't fundamentally believe that it takes a UCP government to keep Alberta prosperous. And so if you can just get everybody behind that mission, no matter what you think, then we can all work together. And there are a lot of people here today and yesterday that I know don't necessarily come from the same place I do, but the atmosphere is incredible. I don't feel any kind of animosity or differences in this atmosphere.
It's been phenomenal. Look, and it is a balancing act, to your point, to hear every voice, to represent everybody as best you can. I'll ask you one more and I'll let you go. I know we've got a bunch of ministers coming on here, but what will be next for you? You've been involved in this for a long time. Something tells me you're not leaving the fold, so are you free to share? Do you have those plans?
No, I'm not really free to share, but I do want to say I appreciate Premier Smith. Everywhere she goes, she says to me, I wish we had a past president position. Yes. So she keeps whispering in my ear that she wants me to stay involved, and I do think that having been through what we've been through, that I do have some expertise to pass along to the next group that comes along. But I particularly, Calgary is my home. I want to stay invested in what's going on here in the party, and I like to be just a worker bee, actually. And just, last night I had 3 different constituency associations ask me to join their boards, so we'll see. I'm not going away as a volunteer.
You'll be busy. Listen, thank you. Okay. Appreciate all the work you've done.
Thank you very much, Bruce.
And I know we'll see you as we travel this road together.
Okay.
Thank you
so much. Thank you.
All right. There's Cynthia Moore, the outgoing president of the United Conservative Party. I'm just going to break away for 1 sec. Leah, can I ask you, are we going to go to the tape next? Thank you. So this is how we communicate live, and without the earpiece, and we want to keep you up to speed on everything that's going here. So one of the things that we did last night is we went around and we talked to some members, and we asked them a few questions: why they were here, thoughts on the Premier, those kinds of things, and we chatted about the United Conservative Party in general, what drew people to it, why they were here. Let's take a look at some of those reactions.
Well, what brought you out to an AGM in the first place and got you involved in the UCP?
You know what, I was one of 6 people who ran the Unity campaign on the Wild Rose side to help unite the Wild Rose and the PC party, and I love coming to these, to be around like-minded people, to discuss policies that are going to positively impact Albertans, and it's also nice to reconnect with friends and people, so that's why I love coming to these.
So for us, the people who came from abroad with the vision or with the dreams in hand, so this is the party for us to fulfill the dreams, because this gives an opportunity.
Big fan of the UCP. I think our province is doing as well as it can. I think that there's some big changes that we could do to bolster ourselves, make us a little bit stronger against the federal government a little bit. I'm proud Albertan, proud Canadian, but Albertan first, and I'd like to see that reflected.
Yeah, what brought you here?
You know what, we were fortunately we were involved with the UCP elections that were on, the provincial elections that happened, and we were supporting our candidate, and we learned a lot during that process, and we realized, at a grassroots level, if you're supporting a party, you really need to be involved.
Yeah.
The people of Alberta were very clear that we had to have one single united Conservative Party going into the next election. So I did the first ever get-together, a beer with a member of the Wild Rose Party, and that started this whole trend towards unity, which is where we are today with the wonderful leadership by our leader, Premier Danielle Smith.
Carol, what brought you here? Why did you think it was important to come to the AGM?
Because it's time to stop being apathetic. It's time to start standing up and having a voice.
Why are you here? Why do you think it was important to come?
It's just important that we try and make sure that Alberta has a good and prosperous future. There's obviously political parties not only in this province but in this country that aren't interested in this province's well-being. So I think we need to do what we can to make sure we have a strong economy and a good tax regime going forward. And we take the steps that are necessary to preserve this great province for future years.
What is it about the UCP that you like?
Well, UCP is about freedom, I would say.
What brought you to the AGM? Why are you interested in politics?
I'm here at the AGM actually for my very first time, so I'm very excited to be here. I've been a long-time Conservative supporter. I've never had the privilege or opportunity to attend, so I'm here to see what an AGM is all about.
How are you liking it so far? Huge turnout.
So far, it's pretty fantastic. It's an amazing turnout.
First time. Thought I'd see what it's all about.
Love that.
I've been a UCP supporter pretty all my life. I read a lot of politics. I voice my opinion, and I encourage others to do the same.
I think it's important for us to exercise our democratic rights to help establish governance and policies that will benefit the party and Alberta. And I think that it's important for people to get politically involved at the grassroots level to make their voices count.
I think it's the party that best represents all Albertans, whether they're rural or urban or north or south. I believe that it's the party that best embodies Alberta values, and that's really why I'm here, to continue to support that Conservative movement.
Cole, what...
Well, that's just a sampling of some of the members that we spoke with yesterday, and we'll throw to a couple of more of those over the next hour or two. Welcome back. I'm got a special guest with me now. I'm going to introduce and have a conversation with. You may recognize him at home. Vitor Marciano is the current Chief of Staff for Energy and Minerals Minister Brian Jean. But Vitor, you've been around politics for a long time. We worked together way back in 2010, 2011, 2012 to the Wild Rose days. You've been to a lot of annual general meetings for political parties. What do you think of this one? How do you size it up?
I've been to a ton. I've organized a lot. And, I did 5+ federal ones, all of the Wild Rose ones, and every UCP one since. This is amazing. The crowd size, the goodwill, the fact that it's new people coming in and sort of exercising their ability to get involved in politics. I mean, my entire political career, I've talked about how not enough people get involved in politics. Well, that's changing. And we saw lots of wonderful, normal people sort of showing up, getting involved. There were 2,000 people in the room last night to debate, discuss, and vote on governance. I mean, that makes my heart sing.
Yeah. Look, there are nearly 4,000 people here, as you know. It's a crazy turnout. Nothing like it in Canadian history.
No.
Even at the federal level.
No, this would be a huge convention at the federal level.
You know, I talked to a lot of people walking around last night, and many of them said, to your point that you just made, and I'll ask you to follow up on it, we got involved because we kind of took government for granted. You know, we assumed things were going to go in the right direction. We trusted those we voted for. Something happened there and something shifted. There is a big group of people now that are saying, look, we believe in Danielle Smith, we believe in what the UCP is doing, and we want to come and have our voice heard.
People have confidence in the government. People have confidence in Danielle, but they also know that they need to be involved. They need to be seen. There's just this feeling that, if I'm not involved, there's a risk that government will drift away from me. And for the longest time, a lot of people, they didn't care about government, and then COVID kind of happened, and they discovered that government cared about them.
Yeah.
And it could make decisions that impacted their lives, and they felt like they weren't getting a chance to be involved and be in the discussion. And I think most people are past COVID, but they still want to be involved in the discussion.
Let's talk Turkey a little bit. And I want to talk about the carbon tax carve-out. I'm sure most of you are aware of what's happened, but Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and his government have decided to exempt the carbon tax on home heating oil, which is really for the maritime provinces, but yet not for natural gas and those of us that depend on natural gas here in the West. It seems asinine to me, frankly, that this would happen, dividing Canadians. But I want your thoughts on it and where you see this going.
There's two elements to this. I mean, one is just the pure dumb politics of it and the pure cynical politics of it. He's basically trying to bribe Atlantic Canada votes back. The Liberals have always counted on having at least 2/3 of all the seats in Atlantic Canada, and they're at risk of not doing anywhere near that well. So this was just pure bribery.
Yep.
But then the other part of it is that it's really actually very bad government, and it's very bad constitutionally, and it's very bad as a policy statement. He actually runs the risk of the Supreme Court reversing itself on the carbon tax. The Supreme Court twisted itself in a pretzel to give him permission to do a carbon tax on the grounds that it was a peace, order, and good government thing. We had to have a relatively uniform policy across all of Canada, and then Justin Trudeau canceled out that argument. So he's in a world of hurt, both politically and legally.
All right, let's bring it back to here. One more question before we go. We've got Environment Minister Rebecca Schultz standing by. She's going to join us in a second. I'm going to ask her about these very things. Hello, Minister. First, I want to ask you about the motion that Minister Schultz brought forward in the legislature, basically saying let's scrap this carbon tax. It should be equitable for everybody. More on the motion and the fact that the NDP voted against it in Alberta.
It was weird. So first, let me congratulate the minister. She's been doing an amazing job of speaking out on behalf of Albertans on this file and leading that fight with Ottawa. She's just been killing it. But yeah. The NDP had introduced a relatively similar motion. They told us they wanted to do an emergency debate on this. They'd said things in the media that suggested there wasn't going to be too much difference between us and them. And then we bring them a motion to debate and vote on, and they vote against it. But not only did they vote against it, about 1/3 of their members didn't bother to show up to vote. So the first vote in the new legislature after the election, and 1/3 of the NDP don't bother showing up to cast their vote. If I was somebody from one of those ridings, if I had been involved in electing an NDP member, and I certainly wouldn't be, but if I were one of their voters, I'd be really annoyed. They elected 38 of them. 38 of them should have been voting. They should have voted yes. But instead, we only had 25 or 26 show up to vote no.
Yeah, very good points. Listen, you and I could talk politics all day.
Absolutely.
We've got a few standing by. Thank you for taking some time.
No, my
Vitor,
pleasure.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Vitor Marciano, Chief of Staff to Energy and Minerals Minister Brian Jean. And Vitor has been around political circles for a long, long time and a solid conservative voice in Alberta. One of the things I want to follow up on, Vitor mentioned the vote as we're going to welcome in Environment Minister Rebecca Schultz here momentarily. This motion that was brought forward in the legislature on the carbon tax. 46 United Conservative Party members, UCP MLAs, the one independent voting in favor, 26 NDs voting against it. Come on in, Minister, have a seat. So really a big surprise. Listen, we're going to kick right into the divisive stuff on the carbon tax. First of all, good to see you. Thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
So great to see you.
Do you ever rest?
Not a lot. I had some kids' activities early morning this morning, and of course here for all of the excitement that we have in store for us today.
Well, we always appreciate your time, and Vitor was just saying, complimenting you on the work that you're doing on the file. I know how busy you are. Thank you for all of that. The AGM, first of all, let's touch on it. Nearly 4,000 people. What do you think? It's amazing, isn't it?
How amazing. Even yesterday at our panel, kicking it off at 2 o'clock on Friday afternoon, registration has just opened and there was standing room only.
Yeah.
Wild.
It's so good. It's like a family reunion, I was saying earlier, but many of the members of our family were getting to meet for the first time, and boy, they're from all over the province, so it's really cool. Hey, I just asked Vitor about this motion. I don't know if you can remember the wording exactly, but tell us more about the motion that you brought forward on the carbon tax.
The motion that we put forward was really one that recognizes the fact that the carbon tax is driving up the cost of really everything, right? From gas to groceries to utilities utilities, and then calling on the federal government to, of course, scrap the carbon tax. And with what we've been seeing across the country, we saw the federal NDP side with Pierre Poilievre on their carbon tax motion. I thought, this is a great opportunity for the NDP to join us and show that they've been listening to Albertans who do not support a carbon tax, who never have. And, again, they voted against it.
Yeah, I'm surprised by that. Maybe I'll think out loud for a second, which is always dangerous, but you would think the Saskatchewan NDP have sided with Premier Scott Moe and the Conservatives, and now even Jagmeet Singh's federal NDP have said, yeah, we need to do something about this to make it more equitable. We called to scrap it entirely, but disappointed. I'm disappointed in Rachel Notley and her tribe. Is it fair to say that their finger is just not on the pulse of what Albertans are feeling?
I think you're exactly right, and Saskatchewan's a great example where the NDP has supported the government in their opposition to the carbon tax. They've recognized that things like the clean electricity regulation are just not doable. Yet here in Alberta, Rachel Notley and the NDP, they chose Justin Trudeau once again. I just think it's so tone deaf based on what we're actually hearing from everyday Albertans right across the province that, at a time like this especially, where affordability is a top concern, they want to see that carbon tax gone. And quite frankly, a consumer carbon tax, it is not doing anything to reduce emissions. Yeah. Like right now, Canadians, they deserve a break.
Well, there's where the rubber hits the road, 100%. It doesn't. And in fact, as the Premier has said many times, and I know I've heard you say the same thing, if we could get more of our product to international markets, to other places on this globe, we would actually help clean up emissions, get people off coal-fired plants, make a big difference. Let's talk about the net zero calls from the federal government. By 2035, they're expecting us to do this. It's impossible to do it. The cost that it would mean to Albertans, maybe touch on those things.
Yeah, they just have this pattern of making these wild announcements to appease their climate activist friends, right? They fly around the world, they're at the G8, at the UN, making these announcements, and then they just tell the provinces, we'll make these commitments and then you can figure it out. Well, on electricity, their net zero clean electricity grid by 2035 is just completely not doable. The technology doesn't exist. It hasn't been tested anywhere. It would really put pressure on affordability and grid stability. So the risk there, at a cost, and you're exactly right, cost estimates are that this would be trillions, over $1 trillion. Certainly billions, but likely over $1 trillion. So who's going to pay for that? It's everyday people, whether it's on their taxes or their bills. And when we're talking about grid reliability, that's actually serious. Those are real health and safety concerns that in the middle of the night, think about the month of January, it is dark, it is cold, Albertans expect to be able to flip on a light switch and have power in their homes. And that's just a non-negotiable for us.
Seems pretty reasonable. Seems pretty reasonable. Listen, one more and I'll let you go. Just a message to our members. We've got so many watching online. We're live on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and obviously we're going to carry the Premier's speech here in a bit. Just a thought to those that didn't make it, to those that did, to our family. What would you say?
I just want to say thank you so much. Being here in this room yesterday and this morning, it is just so exciting to see our passionate, driven, conservative members from right across the province coming together to support us, to make sure that their voices are heard and that we continue, as a united conservative team and certainly as MLAs across the province to represent our grassroots membership. And I think it's awesome to see so many people wanting to get involved and so much excitement for our future.
Well said. Thank you for your work.
Thank you
for
so
joining
much,
us.
Bruce.
Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Environment Minister Rebecca Schultz joining us, and boy, is that lady busy on her file and all the things that she's doing, standing up for Albertans. And I think as we look ahead to the Premier's speech today, which is coming at 1, and again we're going to carry for you live, we will see a big theme on pushing back to Ottawa, or standing up to Ottawa and pushing back against some of their outrageous policies, the net zero grid, the cap on our oil and gas production, all of the things that we do well in Alberta and frankly help us to contribute to the Federation. It would seem like the federal Liberals want to step on our hands and prevent us from helping Albertans and helping Canadians. I'm sure we'll see the Premier touch on that. Come on in, Minister, have a seat. We've got another guest joining us now, the man of the hour. Everybody wants to talk to you, Finance Minister Nate Horner. Thanks for coming by.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so listen, I know how busy you've been because there's been a couple of bills passed in the legislature. Is there 2 or 3 already with your name on them?
Well, they're tabled. They're not passed yet. But
Sorry,
yeah, I think we have four on the floor now out of Treasury Board and Finance.
Okay, so let's chat about them. For many of our members are pretty knowledgeable. They follow the things that are happening in the legislature. But talk on the tax bill first of all. I guess this was the Premier's promise and commitment to Albertans.
Yes. We're amending the Taxpayer Protection Act. So since 1995, I'm sure most Albertans know that we did have legislation in place where you would need a referendum to bring in a general sales tax.
That's right.
We're amending that legislation to also include the corporate tax rate and threshold and the personal tax rate and threshold. If a government wanted to increase taxes in that way, they would have to first go to the people and ask in a referendum. That's Bill 1.
Okay, speaking of referendum, some talk on the Alberta Pension Plan and exploring that possibility. Maybe touch on that and the fact that obviously we're still gathering feedback from Albertans on the issue.
Definitely, and yesterday was an interesting day. Obviously, we had our FPT via Zoom with Federal Minister Chrystia Freeland and the other provincial finance ministers at the request of the Ontario minister. Was very interesting. I'd say the biggest takeaway is that the federal government has agreed that they would involve the chief actuary and get an opinion on the legislation to try to give clarity to Albertans that are, learning about the potential of this around the number. So that was the big takeaway from the meeting yesterday, and it may change how we engage with Albertans. Mr. Dinning and his panel is still out in the field. I think there's 3 more telephone town halls scheduled throughout November. I think those will continue, and then we will probably ask Mr. Dinning to provide some kind of a interim report or assessment to Cabinet just to get a good understanding of where Albertans are at and what they've learned while we await further clarity from the feds.
I think what's interesting about this, it's funny, the emotion and fear of a subject has an impact on people.
Certainly.
And there's no question about it. I love the saying, you can't counter emotion with logic. But I look at a province like Quebec. They have their own pension plan. So, we're not going into uncharted territory with what we're exploring here.
No, Quebec has always had their own pension plan. They were never part of the CPP. But there's always been a withdrawal formula and process within the CPP Act. And if you look back to the discussions that the premiers and finance ministers of the day back in the 60s had, it was absolutely necessary to them that they knew that was there.
Yep.
They would not have joined the pension plan if they knew they couldn't unwind themselves at some point if they felt they needed to. So I think that's important. But you're not wrong. This is a very emotional issue. That's certainly not lost on me. And what I've said and what the Premier's said is that we would never take something to the people without first knowing that it had substantive support from Albertans, but also that they had a complete clarity on what they were being asked and what the implications would be. And I think that's really important for every Albertan to understand, regardless of where you might sit on this, if you're very against, if you're very for, if you're in the middle wanting to learn more. We hear you, we want to provide that clarity, but we would never ask you a bad question.
All right, very well said. Listen, a couple of things we should touch base on. Auto insurance premiums, some relief for drivers coming?
Yeah, so we put a pause on January 25th of 2023. The pause will expire at the end of the calendar year. We're pursuing longer-term reforms, but in the meantime, we did want to bring in some short-term changes to provide price protection to Albertans. So what we've done is we've given the Automobile Insurance Rate Board some more teeth, I guess we could say. They'll have the ability to ask insurance companies for rate reductions if they deem necessary. Also provide some further profit safeguards, I guess, from excess profits on the back of Alberta premiums. And also we've provided price protection for what we're calling good drivers. I know that's a little bit difficult to define, but we worked with the rate board and industry to come up with these definitions. It was very important to the Premier that good drivers know that their rate could only increase at the rate of inflation for Alberta for this year, while we pursue these longer-term reforms.
So many things going on in your portfolio, for sure. So listen, it's good for you to come on and provide some depth and chat with folks. I'm going to break away from that for a second, Minister. We've got nearly 4,000 people here. This is the largest gathering, annual general meeting for a political party in Canadian history. Maybe your thoughts on that, and what's the vibe you're getting when you go around and chat with folks?
Well, it's incredible, and I guess the vibe that I'm feeling is a lot of positive energy. I think people are very pleased with Premier Smith. Everyone I bump into is talking about what a great job she's doing, and so I think that's what I'm hearing. It's kind of we're still in this rebirth since the election with a new leader, and I feel excitement.
Yeah, listen, it's fabulous. You got a big group come from your constituency?
Fairly large, yeah, considering that a decent drive to get here.
Yeah.
It's impressive. Yeah.
It's really neat. Listen, thanks for your time. I know you got lots to do. You got other interviews. Appreciate you coming by.
Appreciate it.
Keep up the good work. Finance Minister Nate Horner joining us. So much going on. You're live at the UCP Annual General Meeting. Nearly 4,000 people registered here. It is the largest turnout in political history for an AGM. It's quite remarkable. And if you weren't able to join us this time, we wanted to be able to bring it to you, so we're doing this live broadcast. We are live on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitter, trying to show you some of the things behind the scenes. We did go around and chat with some folks last night. We'll show you more of that in a few minutes. Bringing on some special guests. We're going to go live here with conversations until 1 o'clock. The Premier will give her speech at 1 o'clock, and then we'll do a bit of a wrap, and it'll be great. So much more to come. I see another guest coming in here, so it gives me great pleasure to introduce you to Marshall Smith, who is the Chief of Staff. Good to see you, Marshall.
Good to see you, Bruce. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming on. Look, there's so much I could talk to you about. Maybe I'll start with this. The vibe here, nearly 4,000 people. You've been around politics for a long time. Have you ever seen anything like it?
Bruce, I've been in politics for almost 30 years. I have never seen anything like this. It is at times electric. There's a lot of people here. It's amazing to see Conservatives come together like this. Yeah. Like, it is really, really something.
It was fun being in the hospitality suites last night. You and I are both teetotalers, so yeah. But there were a lot of people having a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And some heavy heads this morning.
For sure.
But it's like a big family reunion, and we're meeting a lot more people from the family that we might not even have known.
It is. It's really inspiring to see. Obviously, we are a coalition party. There's different views. One of the things I love about conservatism is that there's room in the room for different views, which is great. I mean, often, on the left, unless you, subscribe to the orthodoxy, you're not allowed to participate. And so that's a very different thing about our party that, a lot of people are welcome.
Love it. Listen, want to talk to you about the Alberta Way, the addiction, the recovery, the methods that we're putting in place in Alberta. Right. It's different. And but maybe your story first, Marshall, if we could, so people can identify. I mean, you know this space better than most. You had a tough go. You have a great story that you were able to pull yourself back up, and now you're leading the way for others.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that. I mean, obviously, a lot of people know addiction and recovery is very near and dear to me. I'm in recovery from addiction. I spent several years of my life as a homeless addict on the streets of Vancouver. Obviously, those were really difficult times in my life. That was, almost 20 years ago. And I think in July, I celebrated 19 years of recovery, which has been great. And today I find myself as Chief of Staff to the Premier of Alberta, which is a little bit amazing and unexpected. But those are the gifts that recovery gives to you. Like, those are the things that you can do when you work hard and get your life back and strive for it.
So we are so lucky. If ever there was an expert in a field, it's you in recovery and addiction. So more on the Alberta way, what we're trying to do here,
Sure.
in our philosophy as it differs from the lefts, from the NDs.
Yeah. Well, look, the Alberta model, or so it has become known, is starting to become known the world around. We're getting a lot of interest from other jurisdictions on what we're doing here. Our model is grounded in a very deep belief that we will not leave anybody behind, that nobody is beyond recovery, right? That recovery is possible no matter how far down the hole you've gone. And the reality is the beliefs of the left are just simply not that way. They don't believe that. They believe that we just need to take an approach that keeps people comfortable, and safe while they continue to kill themselves. That is certainly not something we ascribe to.
Let's follow up on that, because I got to tell you, there's few things that really cut to the core of people like the issue of safe supply. And for those of you that don't know, I mean, safe supply, I guess, is the foundational belief that continue to provide drugs for people in appropriate doses, and they'll be better off somehow, that they won't result in crime. We're taking care of them in that fashion. It is not the way to get people recovered.
That's right. Well, look, safe supply is leftist terminology. We don't use those words because we don't believe that there is such thing as a safe drug supply. But they use the term safe supply. That's not a medical term. It's a marketing term, and it's a term that is designed to market their policy. Their policy is to take pharmaceutical drugs, pharmaceutical versions of drugs, heroin, crystal meth, cocaine, opioids, and give those to addicts so that they can use them instead of buying drugs on the illicit market.
And obviously, sorry, carry on.
Well, look, we went through this with OxyContin. OxyContin was the original safe supply. And the left uses the same words that Purdue Pharmaceuticals used to market OxyContin, right? They're using the same terminology. They say that, public health will benefit when there is a legal regulated market of opioids. They say that we shouldn't be afraid of that's opiophobia, and don't be such a teetotaling prohibitionist. They say that, only the people for whom these are prescribed will use them. Those assertions are impossible to reconcile when laid up against the millions of deaths that have been caused by free-flowing OxyContin into the community. That's what's happening in British Columbia right now. Luckily, here in Alberta, under the leadership of our Premier and former Minister Mike Ellis and now Dan Williams, we have made that illegal in Alberta. So the so-called safe supply is not allowed here, and we're already starting to see significant harms in BC. We won't allow that to happen.
Listen, few things give me as much pride in being a member of this team as the work we're doing in that area. And you're a large reason why, so thank you. One more question for you, and we're going to throw to a video here in a minute of some folks we spoke to last night, asking them about the Premier. But I put you on the spot a bit. Look, you work as close with her as anybody.
Pretty close.
Your thoughts on her leadership, on the type of individual she is, how she manages all of this?
Your guess is as good as mine. She has Wonder Woman powers. Look, the Premier is one of the most disciplined, personally disciplined political leaders that I have ever worked with. She is disciplined in terms of the hours she keeps, her sleep, her diet, her schedule. Admittedly, she is a lot to keep up to. But she is, and she balances that out by being a lot of fun, and we have a great time doing what we do for the people of Alberta. She's amazing to work for, but you got to keep up. So bring some running shoes.
Yeah, I hear you. Listen, thank you. Good
Thanks,
to see
Liz.
you. Appreciate
All the
it.
best. Have a good convention.
Marshall Smith, Chief of Staff to Alberta Premier Danielle Smith, our guest, and the big reason why Alberta is doing so well on the recovery and addiction side, and what we're trying to do to help Albertans and get through this crisis. Another interview coming up. First, we were on the floor last night. We spoke to a bunch of folks about the Premier, about Danielle. What is it that you like about Premier Danielle Smith? What draws you to her? Here's a sampling of some of the responses we got.
And why you think she's succeeding?
I followed her campaign and I liked how she answered questions. She was honest. She never shied away. She always answered very truthfully.
I think she's for the people, and she's just a very intelligent and wonderful person, and she's doing a great job so far, and I couldn't be more proud of her.
What is it about Danielle Smith that you like?
I appreciate Danielle's can-do spirit and her leadership style. I think she speaks the way I want to hear a leader speak. I think that she absolutely has our best her best intentions put forward every day, and I just really admire and respect her.
The reason is I'm fortunate in the role I have in my day-to-day. I've met the Premier a few times, and you know what, just meeting her, she actually cares. That she genuinely cares. She cares for the best of the province, the best for the party taking the province, for everyone. The key thing for me is I feel like I'm included in the process.
What is it about Danielle? What is it about Premier Smith that you like, Jaspreet, and you think Albertans are enjoying, because they're really coming on side?
Well, the first and the most important thing, she always stands for Albertan, and that's a big thing. With even the carbon tax, with the Alberta pension plan, that's all for us, for each individual.
UCP is a big part of Alberta, and Danielle Smith has done a lot for Alberta.
Well, I started listening to her a lot on her radio shows. I like the way she operated on her talk shows, and when she started to run, I went to a lot of her rallies with her groups and everything else, and I was, voted her in.
I think the Premier's demonstrating now that she's standing up for Alberta, she's standing up within our federation, and I'm very pleased that she's our Premier, and I look forward to supporting her.
So this is what Danielle is. Danielle is a true Albertan who do understand the value system of Alberta, who's a fighter, who understands the needs of Albertans, and ready to fight with Ottawa.
Unlike our Prime Minister, she's not an empty vessel. She understands the issues, she gets it, and she has the pulse of people across every corner of the province. She listens. She actually cares about what people are saying.
What do you see in her? What draws you to her? What do you think draws Albertans to the Premier?
Well, a very unique thing for me was I got to meet Danielle a long time ago, and she was of course, the MLA for the riding that I now represent. So Danielle, Premier Smith and I over the years have had a lot of conversations about exactly that, is bringing back the Alberta advantage, and she has done just that. She's that leader that's hyper-focused on making sure that Alberta, the Alberta youth, has a future, that we're going to have balanced budgets, and that those kids that are going to school right now and they're educating themselves are going to have a job when they get out, and high-paying jobs, so that they have a future here.
Tell me more about the Premier. Minister of Arts, Culture and Status of Women, Tanya Furr, joining us now. Look, that was some of the reaction from some of the people we were talking to last night, their thoughts on Premier Danielle Smith. How about we start with that? Look, how have you viewed her leadership? What kind of things do you see in Premier Smith?
She's extraordinary. I don't know how she does it all. The more people I talk to that get to meet her and get a chance to see what she's all about are so impressed by her genuineness, her commitment, her common sense principles, and her passion for Alberta. And that's what brings all of us Conservatives together.
Arts, culture, and the status of women really is a big ministry. Yeah. What would some of the things be that you're focusing on right now? Your mandate letter, what are you trying to accomplish?
Yeah, for sure. So Premier recognized the importance of arts by adding arts to the ministry title. I'm meeting with so many stakeholders right now, focusing on how we can focus on and celebrate more Alberta artists, and how we can make sure we make arts and culture as affordable and accessible.
Were you up late?
I was not. I actually was not. as affordable and accessible to as many Albertans as possible.
Yeah. Listen, you're doing great work. Comment on this convention. I've been asking everybody this.
Yeah.
You've been to a lot of them. This is remarkable in terms of turnout. Nearly 4,000 people. What's your takeaway?
The turnout is incredible. The way it's been organized has been amazing, but it's the feeling of unity and people coming together and excitement for what the values that we do all share as Conservatives and how we love our province. And you can just feel the energy in the room. I can't wait for Premier's speech, which
it's coming.
I know, I can't wait.
It's coming. Listen, Minister, thanks for dropping by.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Good to see you. Minister Tanya Furr, again, arts, culture, and the status of women. Yes, we are counting down. We're getting closer to the Premier's speech. She'll be speaking at 1 o'clock. We're going to carry it live, and then we'll have a little discussion after the speech, so we're going to stay with you. If you've just joined us, again, we're live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, live at the AGM for the United Conservative Party here at the BMO Centre in Calgary. We actually had to move here. The initial venue couldn't house, couldn't handle the amount of people that we had coming. So nearly 4,000 people, and we're so thrilled to be able to bring you in. Come on in, Minister. We're so thrilled to be able to bring you into the AGM with us. We've got Minister Rick McIver, Municipal Affairs, joining us. Minister.
Bruce.
Good to see you.
It's great to be here.
First, full disclosure. I have known this gentleman 20 years or more. I remember moderating political forums back in my TV days.
I know where you're going.
I don't think I'll tell the full story, but I remember moderating forums when you were running for mayor. And listen, you've been around it a long time. So this question for you means more, I think, than most. What are you seeing differently that we've got nearly 4,000 people here? What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think there's different new people, members that weren't maybe involved here a couple, 3 years ago that are here now. I suppose they got some different attitudes and some different ideas, and that'll all probably show itself in the voting on the resolutions.
It will. Look, we're a big tent party, and unity is important. Speak to that, and I guess the ability of this Premier and individuals like yourself to bring everybody together.
Well, it does matter. We need to be a big tent party, and we need to have unity and stick together. And what I think for me is most important to remind myself of and everybody else is that the party only has one leader, and that's the Premier. And anybody that doubts that should remind themselves that Danielle won a fair and square leadership contest less than a year ago. She won the general election just half a year ago. So there's no doubt who's leading this party, and we need to listen. We all need to give her our advice, whether we agree with her or disagree on any particular issue, any particular day. But we need to be behind her, and we need to move forward together for the benefit of all Albertans.
Yeah, well said. I've disagreed with her a time or two, for what it's worth.
Well, I don't know enough to keep my thoughts to myself, right?
Well, that's it. But that's what makes you so unique. It's what makes you you. Look, you've been a public serving member in some capacity for a hell of a long time. What keeps you going? What keeps you at this?
It's a crazy way to live, but I feel like I'm blessed. I mean, I get to do work that I think matters to people. It makes a difference. I'm not sure everybody in the world gets to do that. I mean, all work has dignity and it all matters, but I'd rather be at the table, pounding the table and making my point than reading about it or seeing it in the news the next day and saying, well, if I had been there, I could have. So I still don't get my way, right, all the time. But it's rewarding. And listen, I ran this time for the sake of my kids and grandkids, because what we do in government actually matters for the future. And somebody my age, my future I feel like it is what it is. Obviously I can't predict everything, but my kids and grandkids and everybody's kids and grandkids are what we need to be thinking about. Because that's really what's going to make a difference for Alberta as we go on. And that's what gets me up in the morning, because I really feel like I, in my way, can make that better.
How about the difference, Minister, in our United Conservative Party philosophy, the way we do things, and what you're seeing out of the NDP?
Wow, there's a world of difference. I mean, we are tethered to reality to start with. I mean, you can't say, I want people to have it like they do. I want people to have a good job and to have a great future, and say, but I want to take away their job by locking trillions of dollars of oil and gas in the ground and treating business like they're criminals. They say in one breath that they want everybody to have a good job, and the next breath they say you can't trust business. All they do is take advantage. Well, that's completely inconsistent. Where I think we have a much healthier and more honest attitude that, yeah, we're here with our rules and regulations to regulate business. We're also here to support business, because that's where the people in my riding and all the ridings in Alberta go to for their jobs, the security to pay for their, their mortgage, their family, their food, their vacations, and savings for the future. If you don't have business, because all the money that government spends comes from business, directly or through the people that work through them, through their taxes when they're working, and the NDP seems to not make that connection, where they treat business like they're the problem, at the same time squeezing them as hard as they can to take all the money from them, and that is a path for failure.
100%.
So that's the big difference. I think honestly we're tethered to reality.
100%. Hey, one more message to our members, many watching right now that could make it here, and those that are here, what would your message be to the membership as we go forward?
Support the Premier, give her your advice, even if you disagree, and do it on behalf of all Albertans, not just your own personal interests. That's what we need to do in order to have a great future for the almost 5 million, and the Premier says soon to be 10 million in a few years. And I just for the record, I agree with her. And I don't know how long that will take, but in the meantime, we got a lot of work to do. If we're going to invite that many more people, we're going to need doctors, nurses, schools, hospitals, jobs, roads, everything. And some of the people we bring in had better be carpenters and electricians and plumbers and doctors and nurses and teachers. So, it's a big job, and for my part, I'm honored to have a little role in it.
Keep going. Keep doing the work you're doing. Minister, well, good to see you. Thanks for coming by.
Bruce, appreciate you making time for me.
Always. Minister Rick McIver, Municipal Affairs Minister, joining us. We are getting very close to time for the Premier's speech. Again, that is coming up 1 o'clock. Normally, I have a phone with me at all times. Watch this as I check it. It's 12:57. So we are getting very close. If they're running on time, the program will start, and then we'll cut to the Premier's speech. I think we're going to try and bring in one more guest, though, and have a conversation with Agriculture Minister R.J. Segerson in just a minute. Again, live on YouTube, live on Facebook, live on Twitter. We wanted to be able to bring you the AGM. For those of you that can't make it, come on in, Minister, have a seat. And also have some conversations with some of the people working on behalf of you in the province. One of those is Agriculture Minister R.J. Segerson. Minister.
Great to be here, Bruce.
Thanks for coming.
Absolutely.
What's new? You enjoying yourself?
Yeah, it's actually been really exciting. Second day, of course, so been here all morning. Had a chance to get around, talk to a lot of constituents, connect with a lot of friends that are coming from all around the province. So it's been really exciting, actually. So many people here right now, and the energy is amazing.
So many of our members are ag producers. So many of our people are farmers, ranchers, the people that shepherd our land, that grow our food. What's your message to them? What is your ministry doing on their behalf?
Well, first and foremost, always, I want to say thank you to our farmers and ranchers for the great work that they do every year, putting food on the tables of Albertans, but also feeding the globe. I mean, Alberta is a net exporter. We have the highest quality product here, whether it be beef, or canola, or wheat. We have top farmers that are farming in a manner that is sustainable, environmental, and they're leading the world in production. So I'm really proud to be the Ag Minister. It's such a pleasure to be able to represent them and work hand in hand with them to continue to grow the ag industry.
Love it. Son of a cow-calf farmer, I just love the work that you're doing. Look, you've got a really cool story, and you haven't heard it. Share a little bit with us, Minister. You'll tell us to cut away at some point, but we'll keep going until they do. Why did you get involved in politics? Maybe speak to what I know, what you've told me, and the NDP's impact on that decision.
Yeah, I mean, starting way back from the very beginning, of course, I grew up on a family farm. My dad always told me that democracy is not a right, it's a responsibility. So you have to take part in it. Later on in life, starting out on a farm, moving into oil and gas, then became a business owner and partnered up with an individual in a mechanical company just outside of the city of Calgary. We started with 3 employees. We grew to 56. In 9 years, we were featured in multiple magazines. we were just headed, I mean, in such a good direction.
But something happened.
And then the NDP got elected. And they started to make so many changes that were so punishing to businesses all at once, without even consulting businesses at all, that it put us in such a terrible position that 16 straight quarters, we suffered losses, and the business was stripped down. We laid off over 30 employees, and we were just struggling to hold on. So that really moved me forward to getting into politics to make a difference.
So glad you did. Listen, I think are we gonna cut away, guys? It sounds like they're at the stage. So, Minister, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate
Let's
it.
cut away to the program.
Danielle Smith. We are absolutely so fortunate to have such an incredible leader, and I have to tell you what an amazing pleasure it is to work alongside her in our efforts to keep Alberta strong and free.
Now, the moment you've all been waiting for, I get the pleasure of introducing the person who is going to introduce the Premier. Please welcome MLA for Drumheller-Stettler, Nate Horner, to introduce our leader.
Ladies and gentlemen, fellow members of the United Conservative Party, friends, it's an honor and privilege to stand before you to introduce a dedicated public servant, a strong advocate for all Albertans, the Premier of Alberta, and the leader of our party, Danielle Smith.
Nate Horner. Boy, I can't even see all of you at the back there. What a crowd. What a party. You know, I am told that we have 3,792 delegates registered at this UCP AGM. And that, my friends, makes this the largest provincial party AGM in Alberta's 118-year history. And it may well be the largest one in Canadian history. Well done, all of you. Thank you so much for being here. But it's because the Conservative movement in Alberta is stronger than it's ever been, and it's growing faster than it ever has. And we are more united as a movement, as a caucus, and as a party than ever before. And oh yeah, since we last gathered as a party last fall, we ran against our NDP socialist friends and their allies in the union movement in a provincial election. And maybe you didn't hear, but we won. That election victory and the growing strength of our party is so critical to the future of our province and to the future of our country, because Canada needs Alberta to be a national leader. Millions across our great nation look to our province to protect and foster the principles of freedom, of civil rights, of free enterprise, and economic prosperity. They look to us to demonstrate the power of compassionate conservatism and show why we are creating a powerhouse and a job-creating economy like ours, and why that's crucial to delivering the healthcare and education and public safety and social support programs that our citizens need without mortgaging our children's futures with crushing debt and high taxes. The entire world is looking to us right now to demonstrate that reducing emissions and developing our natural energy resources are not in conflict with each other. In fact, the only way the world will ever meaningfully reduce emissions while avoiding energy poverty for billions is to develop our energy resources using the new and emerging technologies being funded by that very resource development. History has shown time and again that economic growth and technology are the keys to solving global poverty and environmental challenges. It is the eco-extreme dogmas of people like Stephen Guilbeault, eco-extreme dogmas such as limiting economic growth, energy scarcity, and centralized control of people's activities. These are failed policies that lead to extreme poverty, soaring crime and addiction, poor environmental outcomes, and the loss of personal freedoms and civil rights. And my fellow Conservatives, Alberta is leading, and we must continue to lead. We must be that shining city on the hill, that land of promise that the best and brightest Canadians and people from around the world look to and say, there is the land of opportunity my family and I want to make our home. Those are the people I want my family and I to be part of, to work with and build a community with. We are that place. Albertans are that people. But there are powerful forces on the left in this country, including the Liberal NDP coalition government, who believe that our province is a problem, a threat to their power and worldview. They believe that we must be forced to change our way of life without delay or concern for cost. These individuals, including Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and his Green czar, Stephen Guilbeault, are set on enforcing this belief by effectively capping production on our provincial natural resources, which we know will cost Albertans hundreds of thousands of jobs and hundreds of billions in economic investment and provincial revenues in the coming years. These same individuals also believe that our province must fundamentally transform our power grid to be net zero within approximately a decade, dangerously risking the reliability of Alberta's power grid and at a cost of hundreds of billions of dollars to Alberta ratepayers. And they seek to impose these policies on our province, knowing full well the Canadian Constitution grants to our province exclusive jurisdiction over the development of our natural resources and the operation of our provincial power grid. And even despite having their unconstitutional Bill C-69, which you know is the No More Pipelines bill, I've been calling that the Don't Build Anything Anywhere legislation, even despite losing on Bill C-69, that legislation was struck down by the Supreme Court. They are still hell-bent on imposing those destructive leftist policies on the people of Alberta. You know what I say to them? Not a chance. Not as long as I'm Premier. Our UCP caucus will never waver in defending the rights and livelihoods of the people of Alberta, and we will thwart every effort of the current federal government to do so until that day, hopefully in the not-too-distant future, when we have a government in Ottawa that understands the concepts of nation-building, the Constitution, and empowering provinces to achieve our goals and aspirations. And until that day comes, we will not give the current group an inch. We will never compromise the future of Albertans. And as it appears the Liberal NDP coalition is continuing with its new electricity regulations and emissions cap, our government is currently preparing several motions under the Sovereignty Within a United Canada Act, detailing the initiatives and legislation needed to protect Albertans from these unconstitutional and harmful policies. I promise you, Albertans will have access to affordable and reliable electricity no matter the season, the weather, or the time of day. And we will not permit the federal government to risk the safety and prosperity of Albertans in this regard. We will hold firm to the knowledge that the world needs more Alberta energy and technology, not less of it. And we intend to empower Albertans to deliver it. Well, my friends, Alberta has not reached the peak of our provincial journey or prosperity, just the opposite. Our province is in the midst of Alberta's century. Alberta is growing faster than at any time in our history. Hundreds of thousands of new and wonderful people are intentionally choosing to call this province home each year. And as we surpass 5 million people in the coming 24 months, our province and government must set our priorities and guide our work through the lens of understanding that by 2050, if we continue at this rate, our province could well be the second largest in the country with a population approaching 10 million people. Now think about that. I can assure you these newcomers are coming here for the same reason people have always come here, to experience the Alberta advantage. I meet new Albertans all the time, and I can tell you that those moving to our province possess the same strength of character and vision of those that built Alberta into the incredible place that it is today. They are entrepreneurs and builders. They believe in family and personal responsibility. They want law and order and to build strong communities. They are our people. They are Albertans. And let me say this, we must reach out and welcome them so they know that they have a warm and inviting home in this province, in this government, and in this party. But all of this growth presents both incredible opportunities and massive challenges for our province. It means that our economy will be one of the strongest in the world for many decades. It means that all the technology and growth to build flourishing new industries and transforming and growing established ones will occur right in our front yard. It means massive infrastructure improvements and new recreational and entertainment opportunities that will build our quality of life and our culture for decades. But it also means significant challenges born out of high growth and economic activity. And our government and this party must face these challenges head on. Together, we must commit to building an Alberta that will be the envy of the world for decades, that will become the best and brightest, that will welcome the best and brightest people in the world for decades. An Alberta that will lead this country for the rest of this century. The time to build and grow and lead is now. And as our government commences our 4-year term in office, I want you to know what we're focusing on to accomplish this. We will focus on keeping Alberta affordable for families and businesses as we grow. We will do that by lowering your personal income taxes by $750 per taxpayer or $1,500 per family. And we've just introduced Bill 1, the Taxpayer Protection Amendment Act, to guarantee there will be no increases in personal or business taxes in this province without approval by Albertans in a referendum. Our government will focus our efforts and those of our municipalities on finding creative solutions to massively increase construction of new houses for sale and rent so that Albertans can find homes that fit their budgets. Over the coming months, our government will also work with industry and consumers on a package of reforms to our electricity system to ensure Albertans have access to much more affordable and reliable power, and to support a power grid that will need to more than double its capacity in the coming decades to allow for high population and economic growth. And when our government lifts the freeze in the new year on auto insurance, we will also be implementing a series of reforms to limit increases to premiums for drivers who have safe driving records, as well as other changes to assist insurers in keeping premiums much more reasonable and competitive with the rest of the country. Affordability will continue to be a top priority as we build Alberta and welcome new families to our province. So too will be reforming and growing the capacity of our healthcare system. Despite the excellent work of doctors, nurses, and other frontline staff, more work is needed so Albertans can access world-class health care when and where they need it. So please stay tuned, as our government will have more to say on this in the coming weeks on health reforms that will decentralize decision-making and resources from AHS down to the front lines, exactly where it should be. And with the substantive growth our province is set to experience in the years ahead, our government must significantly expand the number of spaces in our primary and post-secondary education systems. Not only do we need many more classrooms, teachers, assistants, and support staff, we will also need to provide more educational choices to parents by growing capacity in and improving the quality of our public and separate, charter, independent, and homeschooling systems. And I want every parent listening today to hear me loud and clear. Parents are the primary caregivers and educators of their children. We cannot have a successful province or a successful society without strong and nurturing families. And regardless of how often the extreme left undermines the role of parents, I want you to know that parental rights and choice in your child's education is and will continue to be a fundamental core principle of this party and this government, and we will never apologize for it. My friends, if Alberta wishes to maintain and further grow one of the world's most successful economies, we must build on our core strengths while incentivizing the creation and growth of new industries and opportunities. And as we add another 1 million people over the next 5 years and grow to 10 million by 2050, we must make substantial investments in our infrastructure. In addition to new healthcare facilities, schools, and other building infrastructure, we need to increase investment in our municipalities and provincial transportation networks. We need to think big. We are a province of builders. We are not a we can't people. We are a let's get her done people. Over the coming years and decades, we need to build commuter rail links between our 2 largest cities and their growing neighboring communities and airports. We need to decongest our highways to Kananaskis and Banff with a passenger rail tie between the Calgary Airport, downtown Calgary, and Canmore and Banff. And yes, we need to start planning for the inevitable need for high-speed rail through the Calgary, Red Deer, Edmonton corridor when 6 to 7 million people call that corridor their home. We can and we will host world-class events and build world-class sporting and recreational venues and an infrastructure that we can all be proud of and benefit from. We will build because that is what Albertans have always done. But we will do so with fiscal discipline. This government will not simply place crushing debt on the back of our future generations of Albertans. Our children and grandchildren deserve so much better, and we will give them better. We will balance our provincial budget each year. We will limit spending increases each year to below inflation plus population growth, and we will pay down debt every year until we are debt-free once again. And when we run surpluses, rather than spend it all on the wants of today, we will build our Heritage Savings Trust Fund by the billions and eventually by the tens of billions, so that one day our reliance on oil and gas royalties will be eliminated. We will leave future generations of Albertans a legacy of prosperity and opportunity built on fiscal foundation as strong as our Rocky Mountains. So, yes, all of this is ambitious, but so too are Albertans. We have never been content with average. We are not a people to say good enough when there is so much more possibility in front of us. And we do not shy away from a challenge, not when the futures of our families and our friends and our neighbors are at stake. We are indeed a province of innovators, pioneers, and visionaries, but we're also a province of teachers and healers and protectors. And we will need the unique strengths and gifts of all of us, of our children and of their children, to realize the limitless possibility and promise of our remarkable home and our remarkable people. And I know that nothing, absolutely nothing, will stand in our way. May Alberta be forever strong and free.
Wow, Premier, thank you so much. What a truly inspiring speech. The future of Alberta is so bright, and I hope we can all rest assured and know that your
government. A few of these things as we hear Minister Nicolaitis wrapping up down behind me. I think that will stop shortly, and then we'll get into a discussion. Actually, let's just get into a discussion. We'll talk over it. Let's welcome Erica Barudis, long-time political pundit, member of this team, this family for so long. You're up to some new things. We'll talk about those. First, let's talk about the speech, Erica. What did you think? What were the key points? What did you hear?
Yeah, I mean, I think she nailed it. She came out really strong. She definitely was speaking to the crowd on some of her messages of standing up to Ottawa. We saw a standing ovation on parental rights. And, I think she was really speaking to the room, but I know she's headed over to kickoff, and it sounds like she's ready to talk national strategies, too.
Yeah, so much going on. That was a big theme. Obviously, parental rights. What about the fiscal side of things? It seems to be resonating that we're doing things differently. She is doing things differently, paying down debt, putting money away, still providing the services that we need. What do you think of that direction?
Yeah, I definitely think what we're seeing is a lot of the work that the UCP has put in over the last 5 years in government is starting to pay off, and the Premier and our leader is doing a great job of leveraging that, talking about exactly what that means for Albertans, and about the return on investment that we're seeing on all the hard work to date.
What do you think of you're not as close to it as you once were. You're not right in the inner circle, but obviously you still got a unique lens. What do you think of the discussions between what we're seeing from Ottawa, the pushback from the Premier? I mean, what I'm hearing from people, it's a big reason many of these people are here. What are your thoughts?
I completely agree. She's found something that's important to people, and she's doing the work and delivering on that. So the standing up to Ottawa, I mean, we saw the Supreme Court decision with C-69. She's leveraging and running with that. Seeing a lot of the conversation around carbon tax exemption. I do think that there's going to be a lot of talk on the unity of premiers against Ottawa, and that's always started and been critical for Alberta's position.
How about that, Erica? Let's talk about the regional differences. Was it Nova Scotia's Premier? Somebody tweeted out, "Thank you for the break, but this is hardly nation building. All Canadians should get it." So we see what's happening in Saskatchewan. They're not going to collect the carbon tax on home heating starting in January. Is this the thin edge of the wedge on this issue? Has Trudeau lost all credibility on the file?
I mean, I think he's been a dumpster fire for some time. But yeah, this is where you made a decision. Your team came out and basically said, well, Atlantic Canada came with a plan, and they have more of our seats there, so we're going to go with this. And I don't know how you backtrack. He seems to be a little bit of rubber for the last couple of years. Like, nothing sticks to the guy. But I think that this is one, and the leader did a great job of highlighting that. Like, hopefully soon we won't have this guy in power and we'll have a partner in Ottawa. I think she's foreshadowing maybe some of the disasters of the federal government coming to a head.
Yeah, well, look, for what it's worth, I spent 20 years as a member of the media and loved the career, and I'm so glad I moved on and got into this world. But my lens on it is it's starting to shift. The media is starting to see the hypocrisy in the narrative of the carbon tax. It's not just the carve-out for Atlantic Canada. It's the fact that, are we actually reducing emissions? Home heating oil produces more than natural gas. There are so many hypocrisies in what he is doing. We could go on about Ottawa all day, but maybe just some closing thoughts on it.
Yeah, I mean, again, what we're seeing is unity across from nation, like from our entire nation, from coast to coast, coming against Ottawa, being frustrated, wanting just fairness and equality. And when you have Atlantic Canada being like, thanks, but no thanks. I think the important thing that I've seen the leader and the government talk about is affordability, right?
Exactly. Give me 1 second.
Yeah.
I want to come back to this. Leah, I just want to ask, do we want to cut away to this and hear what the Premier's having to say? Okay, we'll do that. The Premier's back at the
mic. United. The fact that we're able to have robust policy discussion and have the largest Conservative convention in our party's history, that wouldn't have happened without strong leadership seeing us through every step of the way. This award is so greatly deserved. Make sure you have a chance to thank our president one-on-one. We're certainly going to miss her leadership. Thank you so much, Cynthia.
guess we're on. Look at that. Love live TV. Here you are, Bruce. Look at the camera. Okay, welcome back. So the Premier was just giving out some very special awards to the volunteers that work so hard for all of us here in the United Conservative Party family, and also to Cynthia Moore, the outgoing president. So we just wanted to kind of weigh and take a minute of that. Sitting now with Erica Baroudis, longtime political pundit, longtime political operative, member of the United Conservative Party, and let's go back to the AGM in its entirety. Erica, 4,000 people here, almost. I think 3,800 and change. You've been to many of them. Your thoughts?
All 6.
Yeah, your thoughts on the vibe and the turnout?
Oh my gosh, it's incredible. So I have an award for the next generation, as we're always trying to get youth more involved in our movement. I got the opportunity to address the crowd last night, and I've actually addressed them in all 6 years. I was the founding president of the party. And even at that founding AGM, we only had about 2,800 folks. This is actually incredible. Like, I think that we are the biggest political convention in the history. And I just came from being at the CBC convention in Ottawa, and that was a great vibe. I think there's lots of momentum behind him.
You said CPC, not CBC.
Yes. Oh, yeah. No, I don't pay money to go across the country ever for them. They already take enough of my money.
Okay, I thought so.
No, Conservative Party of Canada. There's great momentum there, but this room is nothing I've ever seen before, and I think a lot of that is, people getting behind our leader and our government and all the great things that they've been doing.
I want to give you a chance to give a plug for what you're doing
now.
We're going to move on to a couple of ministers here to kind of wrap the speech and whatnot, but you've got a new podcast. You want to give a shout out, let people know where they can see it. What are you up to?
Yeah, so it's called The Discourse. I'm actually partnering, and who would have thought we could do this, but with ND peer, Cheryl Oates, who during the general election, we went head to head on a lot of panels.
Yes.
Have a good vibe. We do it in a respectful way to kind of give people that maybe don't pay as much attention to everything as you and I do a chance to kind of hear from both sides and come up with their own opinions. So The Discourse can be found on YouTube, so you can watch us kind of give each other some looks, or listen on anywhere you get your podcasts.
Erica, thank you for doing this.
Yeah, thanks,
Good
Chris.
luck.
Yeah,
nice to
thank
see
you.
As always, thanks for stopping by.
Yeah.
Erica Baroudis joining us. Again, the Premier's speech just wrapping up. I see a couple of ministers standing by. We're going to bring those gentlemen on for a conversation, and we'll highlight some of the things that the Premier just spoke of, and maybe I'll do that while we wait for the ministers to come on and join us. But I think one of the biggest rounds of applause that the Premier received in her speech was the fact that parental rights matter, and parents are the primary caregiver of their kids. So that was one of the themes that she spoke to. Obviously standing up to Ottawa on the natural resources file, on the electricity grid file. The Conservative movement certainly growing. There are other issues to chat about, but we're going to bring in another one of our ministers to chat, and that is Minister of Infrastructure Pete Guthrie. How are you, sir? Good to see you.
Good to see you, Bruce.
What do you think of the speech?
Oh, it's great. I've been absolutely amazed. And the number too, I didn't realize that we were over 3,700.
Yeah. No, this is number one, right? The largest ever?
Yes.
Yes. And this morning's number was about 3,800. So it's
crazy.
Yeah, you've been to a few of them. How was the vibe walking around? What are you hearing from people?
Just a ton of positive energy. I just had nothing but positive thumbs up. I'm just absolutely impressed by the interest level, and there's so many people that are telling me that they've never been to one of these before, and this is their first time. That's great to see as well.
Yeah.
Renewed interest.
It's phenomenal, and I met so many new people, and I keep saying our family is growing. Tell me about your ministry a little bit. What are you working on? What are some of your priorities, your mandate letter?
Yeah, there's a lot of them. I guess, one of the biggest ones being, we're experiencing labor shortage, price escalation. So one of the challenges is to try to do things more efficiently, more effectively, to do it on time, in fact, maybe a little bit quicker with, say, health, for instance.
For sure.
And then also to be able to maintain quality. So that's, I guess, primary. Building recovery centers, that is top of mind for the Premier and for our government. We have 2 of them that have opened up recently, one in Lethbridge and one in Red Deer. and we have 9 more facilities to build. So those are a couple of things that we're working on.
Yeah, the Alberta model. Listen, we had Marshall Smith on a few minutes ago before the Premier spoke to talk about some of the strides we're making in that area. Really is making a difference in I think not just Alberta, but the way the whole model is looked at globally. Alberta's becoming a leader on that file.
Yeah, definitely. We've taken a completely different strategy. Marshall Smith has led that, and being the chief of staff of the Premier, I mean, he's a busy man, but he still has his hands in the future direction of this, and really, really happy to have him on board and be directing traffic.
One more before I let you go. We've got a whole bunch of members watching online, obviously 4,000 here. Message to the membership, our family members, what would you say to them going forward about our family and the things we're working on?
Yeah, I guess the first thing I would say is, thank you. Thank you for electing us. We're going to do our best to fulfill the mandate that we've been given. We're going to work hard, and please get active. Participate in events like this. Get involved in your local board, and get to know your MLA. I have so many people that will reach out to me, and they'll tell me, hey, this is the first time I've reached out to my MLA, and they can help. They can help you with local charity events. They can help you with individual issues, and really get active.
Yeah, listen, great message. Thank you. Appreciate it. As always.
Good.
Infrastructure Minister Pete Guthrie stopping by, and again,
Thanks,
just joining us. Premier's speech was 1 o'clock. Very good. Amazing. This place is packed. There's close to 4,000 people here. Looking around to see who's stalking us in behind me. See another minister about to join us. We're going to wrap in a few minutes, but we'll bring you a few more of these conversations. It's nice to be able to get you up and personal with some of the ministers. Come on in, Minister. Some of the people that are working hard on your behalf. One of those is Matt Jones, and Minister Jones is the Minister for Jobs and the Economy. Something else in that portfolio.
And trade.
And trade. Thank you. How you doing? We spoke yesterday. We had a bit of a conversation, but how are you enjoying the AGM? What are your thoughts?
I'm excited. This is one of the largest AGM in provincial history, and it's because this is a government that reflects Albertans, and so Albertans are excited to see a government that's going to fight for their interests, both at the provincial but also the federal level.
So good. What do you think of the speech?
Premier Smith has a way of connecting with everyday Albertans, and I can tell you that's because she genuinely cares about the issues they're facing. And so every time she speaks, people like her more. And I think they're going to continue to over the next 4 years as she makes progress on the things they care about, like affordability, like housing, like childcare, and of course pushing back on the federal government.
I agree. Let's bust away from the typical narrative for a minute, Matt, and follow up on that. So one of the problems I think we faced during the election campaign, the media narrative, they tried to theme the Premier as somebody she was not, and make people question a lot of things about her. But the longer she governs,
absolutely,
the more that changes. Are you seeing that?
Well, I can give you my own personal experience. When I was in utilities, the Premier would call me on a day-to-day basis, and she would discuss ways of tackling affordability in electricity and reliability. Now that I'm in jobs, economy, and trade, again, we have daily discussions on how to bring game-changing investment, diversifying investment to the province. She's very practical, she's very tangible, and Albertans are going to see that every day in how she spends her time and how she focuses our government.
Love it. Listen, jobs, economy, and trade. Every speech she gives, you're centered in it, you're featured in it. It's about bringing people here, yet we have shortages. There are challenges that come with the blessings. Everybody wants to come to Alberta. We don't have the people that we need in many of the trades, and et cetera. Tell me about your mandate letter, the things that you're working on, what's priority for you?
Yeah, great question. So you're exactly right. We've grown by 4.5% over the last year, 200,000 new Albertans, the fastest growth in Canada. And while that presents great opportunities, it also presents great challenges, of course, because that puts additional stress on our housing, additional stress on our healthcare system. So I'm going to be working with my ministerial colleagues to address the current shortages in labor, so that's skilled trades, healthcare workers, child care professionals, and to get ahead of future labor shortages so that when people come here, they can get the services and housing they need.
It's a big load.
Absolutely, but we're up to the task.
You've got a lot to do. Listen, Minister, we always appreciate chatting with you. Anything else? What would you say to the membership? We've got thousands viewing online, 4,000 here. Any message to the family before we let you go?
Yeah, my message is first, thank you for your support, for supporting this government, and having a government that reflects your values and the things that you want to see from your province. It doesn't come by accident. It requires your effort and your support, so we thank you for that, and just continue to pay attention and tell us what you want us to do. Thank you.
Minister, always appreciate your time.
Thank you, Bruce.
It's good to see you. All right, Minister Matt Jones, jobs, economy, and trade. Talking about a giant file that he has in front of him. And again, the Premier focuses on it in most of her speeches. Alberta's economy is booming. People are coming here, but the challenges that come along with that are tremendous. So it is a load. I'm just going to refer to some notes here. When you get my age, you need these glasses to see anything. So we've got a couple of guests coming by. We've been live since noon. If you're just joining us, we wanted to bring you inside the AGM to give you a sense of what's happening here, to meet some of the people behind the scenes, both those that are elected and those that aren't, that are parts of the Conservative movement, the Conservative family. Nearly 4,000 people, the largest gathering at an AGM in political history. Mr. Wilson, come on in. Come on in, sir.
Glad to be here.
I'm going to introduce you to our family at home. So we've got thousands watching online. Brett Wilson joining us now. Brett, I'm not even sure how I would introduce you. Entrepreneur, philanthropist, businessman, contributor. You give back, you help others. You're a big part of the United Conservative
I'm pretty proud
Party.
to be part of this whole movement, but your colleagues asked me what they wanted across the bottom, what I wanted, and I said grandfather and entrepreneur.
Okay.
And the reason? I celebrate family. I'm pretty proud to be a grandpa. It's come into my life in the last 3-4 years in a big way. And I've been an entrepreneur most of my life. I worked for a big investment bank, I worked for a big oil company, but as I evolved out of that and built First Energy and built many other businesses ranging from power to natural gas, I mean, everything is really about the entrepreneurial world.
So a lot of people that have sat in this chair today have been elected members, people that are working for the government in some capacity. You're not. So, but you've been around it a long time.
I'm unemployable and I'm unelectable. I know that.
You do well enough to buy the nicest shirts in the room. I've got to tell you that.
I love color.
Yeah, it's very good. What would you say the main takeaway, the main vibe is from what you're seeing? Nearly 4,000 people here is extraordinary.
Well, if you don't mind, I'm just going to read from my own tweet.
Yes.
And what I wrote just before coming up here. I'm listening to Danielle Smith give share one of the finest and most logical, inspirational political speeches I have heard in decades. Protecting the economic strength and independence of Alberta is truly about building confederation and Canada. And that's why I believe we can help build Canada. I'm not about leaving Canada in any way, but we need our independence economically and thoughtfully to do what's right.
That's why we have the Sovereignty Act Sovereignty Within a United Canada Act, 100%. So how do you balance that? Like from your position, you look at it. I mean, look, Stephen Guilbeault is a major challenge to
Stephen Guilbeault has introduced legislation, this clean energy regulation. I'm in the process of building another power plant. If I build that power plant, I cannot meet his rules, which means I will go to jail for building his power plant. Now, I've joked with the Premier and said, as long as there's good Wi-Fi in jail, I'm okay with that. But I'm not. We're not. Nobody is. And the thought that they would put criminal code on top of building enough power to run our province makes no sense.
Well, it's ludicrous, it's asinine, it's all of those things.
It's dangerous for dividing our country.
For sure. So this is the forever challenge with us, is pushing back and standing up for Albertans.
Very much.
And Danielle is Premier is doing an amazing job at it. Any thoughts, Brad, overall on anything else you want to cover? The AGM, the turnout. I know you've been at the hospitality suites.
This turnout is nothing short of extraordinary. And when I watch people celebrate the independence of Alberta, again, as part of Canada, when I watch people celebrate the importance of parenting, of being a family, it works for me beautifully.
Glad you're here. Listen, and I can thank you on behalf of the Premier and everybody else in our family for the work that you do and for the support that you give us.
I'm not done yet.
All right, awesome. Listen, come by anytime, and good to see you. Appreciate
Pleasure.
it.
Thank you.
Okay, Brett Wilson, entrepreneur, grandfather, many other things. I'm just going to ask my production team. Are we good to wrap, guys? Just going to get a cue. Okay, we are. So listen, let me sign off by saying this. Thank you. Thanks for being with us today. I've said this a few times. We wanted to give you a first-hand look at what's happening at the annual general meeting of our United Conservative Party. We've touched on the numbers, close to 4,000 people here, largest political gathering in Canadian history at an AGM. It really has been unique. We brought you the Premier's speech live, many conversations with cabinet ministers and others. Thank you for your support. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate it. And hopefully down the road we'll see you at a future AGM. Again, thank you for your time today. So long.